SMU surprised a lot of people last year, their first year in the ACC, their first year in a Power Four conference by making the ACC championship game and the playoffs. They did not surprise Uncle Lou. SMU was my dark horse pick last year to win the ACC. They didn't end up winning. They lost in the ACC championship game, but they did make the playoffs. Can they repeat that in 2025? They won't be sneaking up on anybody this season. It's time for another prediction video. Yeah, good morning. That is Uncle Lou here. That's right. It is me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, in addition to that as well, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. I post these pointless, barely watchable college football videos almost every single day of the year. We have a really good time here. We do call-in shows Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 9 p.m., live streams on the weekend. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. College football season here, under 3 weeks away. Week 0 coming up on August 23rd. So getting ready to get rolling here. SMU is up today. Now, they did go 11-1 last year. Their only loss in the regular season came early in the year against BYU. They made a quarterback change. They moved from Preston Stone to is it Kevin Jennings? And he ended up having a really good year until their last 2 games of the year. They went 11-1 in the regular season, came up short against Clemson in the ACC championship game, and then lost on the road to Penn State in the first round of the playoffs. And the quarterback did not play well, really, in either the ACC championship game or the playoff game after playing pretty good for most of the season. He had 5 turnovers total in the ACC championship game and the playoff game on the road at Penn State. The first half on the road at Penn State in particular was just a complete disaster. Can he improve in year 2? Probably. What about SMU? Well, like I said, they're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. Now, the quarterback is back, Jennings, but they lose their leading rusher from last year. So they've got 4 unproven players at the running back position, 2 freshmen that have been on the team and 2 from the portal. So we'll see. Now, they do get some wide receivers back, a couple of them, in fact, and a tight end. So I would expect the passing game to be improved in 2025. And then over on the defensive side of the ball, pretty good last year at times, but they lost a lot of talent off of last year's team. So they're going to bring in some transfers. They got a handful of veteran players that are back. They were 26th last year in total defense, so not bad, only giving up 326 yards per game. Isaiah Smith, Cameron Robertson, 2 of the stars from last year's team. They've got talent on the edge, obviously. Interior defensive lineman Jeffrey Imba, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Terry Webb, Jonathan Jefferson. So they're pretty good up front. How's SMU going to do? You can see the schedule over here on the side of the screen. Can they make a return trip to Charlotte for the ACC championship game? Let's go through the schedule game by game. Well, before we do that, let's take a look at the Vegas odds. I like to look at this for all the teams. So the win total for SMU, the expected win total for SMU right now sits at 8.5. So people that bet on these types of things, they're looking for SMU to win 8 or 9 games. Last year, of course, 11-1. So a step back, according to the people who bet on these types of things at 8.5, at 8.5 wins. What about winning the ACC? Can they win the ACC? Let's see. Where's the SMU has the 4th best odds to win the ACC. Clemson, obviously the favorite, followed by Miami, and then Louisville, and then of course SMU. Now SMU's got a difficult schedule. They play all 3 of the teams ahead of them, as you can see on the schedule. They play Clemson, Miami, and Louisville. So I think it's going to be a tough task for SMU to get back to the ACC championship game or the playoffs. Even if they're about as good as they were last year, the schedule is just a little bit more difficult this season. All right, speaking of that schedule, let's go through it game by game, and I'm going to give you a winner and a loser for every single week. They start off with 4 non-con games in a row, 2 against the Big 12, 1 at home, 1 on the road. But up first is the East Texas A&M Lions. Now, SMU will have no problem with them. This is a name-your-score type of game. SMU will win easily. But then things get more difficult at home against Baylor. And then if you look 2 weeks after that, on the road at TCU. Sandwiched in between there, another non-con game on the road at lower classification Missouri State. I think they'll beat East Texas and Missouri State. When it comes to Baylor and TCU, these are two teams in the Big 12 that should be improved this season versus what we saw last season. Baylor in particular, I think could have a pretty good year in the Big 12. However, I'm going to give SMU the win against Baylor at home and a loss on the road at TCU. It could easily go the other way. I do think Baylor's probably a little bit better of a team than TCU. We'll see. I've been wrong before. But home and away does make a difference. I'm going to give SMU the win at home against Baylor and a loss on the road at TCU. They've got one loss in the non-con heading into their first bye week before they start conference play in the ACC. And they start off with a pretty tough opponent at home in Syracuse. Syracuse, another surprising team last year in the ACC, went 9-3 in head coach Fran Brown's first season there, but they've lost their quarterback and their leading wide receiver, some other key pieces off to the NFL, graduation and transfer portal. I don't know if Syracuse can get back to the 9-win mark this year. It's a home game for SMU. If it was a road game, maybe a little more tricky, but I do think SMU gets the win at home against Syracuse. Same thing against Stanford. Not a very good team. Lots of changes there administratively going on at Stanford, as well as turnover on the roster. I just don't expect them to be very good again in 2025. I think SMU gets another win. They start off 2-0 in the ACC. On the road at Clemson, though, it doesn't get any more difficult than that in the ACC. This is the best team in the ACC, and you got to play them there. Rematch of last year's ACC championship game, which ended up being a great game, by the way, came down to a field goal at the end. I don't see SMU getting this win on the road at Clemson. I think Clemson is going to be much better in 2025, even than they were in 2024, and I question whether or not SMU can compete. I'm going to give the win to Clemson. That would be SMU's second loss of the year, their first conference loss. On the road at Wake Forest, I'll give SMU a win here. Wake Forest, they're decent at times from year to year, but consistently they just don't play at a high enough level, I don't think, to be able to win this game against SMU, even though it is on the road at Wake Forest. And this is the second leg of a back-to-back road trip for SMU at Clemson, at Wake Forest. Back-to-back road games can cause problems. I do think they lose the Clemson game, but I think they beat Wake Forest on the road. But then they come back home and play Miami, probably the second best team in the ACC, either them or Louisville. I think Miami beats them. Now, this is the game SMU could win. This is going to be, I think, like a pivot point in the season for SMU. If they drop this game, that's their third loss. Highly unlikely they make the ACC championship game or the playoffs if they drop this game to Miami. So maybe they sort of circle the wagons type of thing at home. It is homecoming and get a big win. But I've got Miami pulling it off. That's SMU's third loss. They'll rebound the following week on the road at Boston College, who I just think is kind of a forgettable team in 2025. Other than it being a road game, I don't see any potential reason not to go with SMU there. So I'm going to give SMU the win on the road at BC. Then they get their second bye week of the season before closing out the season with home games against Louisville and a road game against Cal. Again, I am pretty high on Louisville this year. I am impressed with what Brom has done there over the last couple of years. Made the ACC championship game 2 years ago, came up short against Florida State. And last year they came up a game short of making the ACC championship game. However, they did beat Clemson last year in the regular season, if I remember right. And they host Clemson anyway, that's for a Louisville video. But I think Louisville gets the win. Again, it's a home game for SMU. Now, it's entirely possible SMU splits these home games between Miami and Louisville. Well, hell, it's possible they win them both. Anything's possible. I've been watching college football a long time. Nothing surprises me anymore. But I do think both Louisville and Miami are better than SMU this season. They do get them both at home. So, maybe they split them. I've got SMU dropping both of those games, Miami and Louisville. They'll wrap the season up with a win on the road at Cal, who, if it weren't for Stanford, might be the worst team in the league. But that's going to put SMU at 4 losses for 2025, 8-4. 1 non-con loss on the road at TCU, and then 3 conference losses, which was just, that's going to be too many conference losses for SMU to find their way back to the ACC championship game. So I think SMU takes a small step back. Rhett Lashley, the head coach there, had plenty to say at media days about other people's schedules. I don't know. Mike should have been a little bit more concerned about his own schedule. This is a tough one here for SMU compared to last season. Again, they play the top 3 teams in the ACC according to the odds market. When you look at the preseason, the off-season odds, how the ACC stacks up, it's Clemson, Miami, Louisville. SMU plays all 3 of them. And I think they lose to all three of them, too. In addition to that, I've got them losing that road game in the non-con at TCU. 8-4 for SMU, their second year in the ACC. Not a disastrous season, and we'll see where they go from here. I think, obviously, they've got a lot of money. At SMU, they're going to be very active in the portal every single year. We'll see how it goes going forward. But in 2025, I do have them taking a step back at 8-4, missing out on the ACC championship game this year and the playoffs as well. All right, let me know down below what you think about SMU this season. How wrong am I? Are they making a return trip to Charlotte for the ACC championship game, or are they making a return trip to the playoffs? Let me know down below what you think their record will be, who they're going to lose to. Which games do I have wrong here? Let me know down below. All right, appreciate you watching. Have a good morning.